Hey guys, in this month's Historical Fiction 101, I'm going to be reviewing Season 1 of The Spanish Princess. So, before I do head into this review of Season 1 of The Spanish Princess, spoiler warning, I guess? I'm not sure... I'm not sure how to kind of handle this video because it is, everything kind of going on in this is based off of true events for the most part. So yes, you know, because some people are gonna die, and I'm gonna be mentioning that. But they're real historical figures, so I'm not sure how much of a spoiler that is. But either way, if you're not familiar with the time period of this show and you do plan on watching it, and you don't particularly want any spoilers, then yeah, you may not want to watch this video. But I'm pretty much going to be going right into spoilers, if you will, if you want to consider them spoilers. So yeah, The Spanish Princess Season 1 aired on the Starz Network. It had 8 episodes, and hey, it has a Season 2 coming out, which I was very surprised about. If you don't know already, if you kind of jumped into The Spanish Princess without doing any sort of research, this is actually the 3rd show in this particular series, if you will, though they all have different titles. The first series was called The White Queen, and that was pretty much during the War of the Roses, and then the second series was called The White Princess, and that was kind of right after the War of the Roses, leading into the beginnings of the Tudor dynasty. So then yeah, here with The Spanish Princess, which is 3rd in this whole series, if you will, and yeah, this is following young Catherine of Aragon, who becomes the first wife of King Henry VIII. Ooh, and we all know how that goes. He kills a couple wives, divorces all of them, has one die. so yeah, you know, things aren't going to end very well with poor Catherine of Aragon with this show. But either way, I was really surprised that this did get a 2nd season because, like I said, there was the White Queen, the White Princess. They were all just one and done, and that's how they were intended. And I expected the Spanish Princess was going to be the same, that it was just going to be a one and done season, and then they would move on to maybe the other Moen girl, possibly. I'm not sure. So yeah, surprise, surprise. This got a 2nd season. This first season was kind of the first half of the book, and I'm guessing the second half is going to be the second half of the book, which is kind of interesting. So yeah, if you don't know already as well, The Spanish Princess is a book by Philippa Gregory, which is called The Constant Princess. That is, its original title is The Constant Princess. I think for the purposes of television, I think it sounded more flashy and cooler to call it The Spanish Princess to really grab an audience, I suppose. So yeah, like I said, this is about a young Catherine of Aragon who becomes the first wife of King Henry VIII. So that's the journey this show is taking. It's starting off with her in Spain. She's coming to England to get married to Prince Arthur, who is Henry's older brother. But if you know your history, Arthur eventually dies, and that's how she does eventually marry Henry, who becomes Henry VIII. So there's that little bit of history if you didn't know already. And yeah, the way the show ends, it ends right as Henry and Catherine are going to get married, and we'll talk about that ending, you guys. We will talk about that ending because I love the ending of this show. So yeah, how did I feel about The Spanish Princess, you guys? I did enjoy it. Let me say that. I did enjoy it. I did really like it. I didn't hate it. Let's put it that way. I didn't hate it. Definitely by no means. I mean, this is the type of thing I love. You know, I love this stuff. So I did. I definitely enjoyed it. But I did not like it as much as, like I mentioned, The White Princess and The White Queen. I freaking love those, you guys. Those were just outstanding to me, like from start to finish. And I do feel like The Spanish Princess, though I did enjoy it, there were moments that I did feel like it dragged a little bit. It did seem to drag a little bit, and like I said, it's getting 2 seasons, and I don't know if that was entirely necessary, because I feel like they could have maybe upped the episode count to maybe 10 or 13 episodes. That way they could have done the entire book and been, and yeah, like the White Queen and like the White Princess, it could have been a one and done season. Because yeah, now I feel like they're doing a second season, and it's going to feel a little drawn out, if that makes sense. So yeah, there were certain elements that felt drawn out that I was like, I don't remember this from the book. Did all of this happen in the book? Because I definitely don't remember it. So yeah, I would definitely put this at the bottom of my list, because yeah, the White Queen and the White Princess were just, mind-blowing to me. But yeah, like I said, not bad. This wasn't bad by any means to me, anyway. I love this type of stuff. So yeah, like I mentioned, I'm sitting here kind of reading off my notes to make sure I'm not missing anything. Yeah, it had an initial slow start to the season, but yeah, once it picks up, I mean, it seriously builds to a very, very dramatic ending that just leaves you in suspense. and yeah, what this show does too, because it's been a very, very long time since I read The Constant Princess by Philippa Gregory. It's been a long time, but what I definitely remember it being very heavily focused on, like, the romance angle, if you will. And yeah, this show definitely focuses a lot on more of the politics more than anything. It's more than just the romance story between Catherine and Henry. It's definitely very, very heavily focused on the politics during this time with the Tudor reign, because it is right here at the start of the Tudor dynasty. In some ways, it's just a very tumultuous period, because they're coming out of the War of the Roses, and even though Henry VII has been king for a number of years, it's like the people, he still fears a revolt in some ways. He fears other pieces of the Plantagenets, because there's other people part of the Plantagenet dynasty, which was the dynasty that the Tudors or usurped, rather, I guess. So there is kind of that constant fear of Henry VII fearing that he won't be king for very long. The people will revolt, and they'll want to put a Plantagenet back on the throne and take away the throne from the Tudors and whatnot. So it focuses very, very heavily on that, on the politics. Yeah, there's a lot of Henry VII in here, with him, like his fears, his paranoias, and yeah, especially with his mother, Margaret Beaufort. I love the character of Margaret Beaufort, because it's like, is she a villain, or what is she? But at the same time, you kind of weirdly sympathize with her, because Margaret Beaufort, she's done everything for her family, and she doesn't want the Tudor dynasty to be destroyed, you know. So there's a lot of that fear and paranoia with Margaret Beaufort and Henry VII. And yeah, here comes Catherine of Aragon really steering things up. But yeah, she's ultimately with the side of the Tudors, you know. So yeah, I really love that strong focus on the politics. I loved all the romance as well, but yeah, I really crave like the political aspects as well. So yeah, and something I don't remember too much from the book either. I mean, I just don't remember Catherine maneuvering as much as she did, because in this show, Catherine of Aragon, she is plotting and maneuvering like crazy to make sure that she becomes Queen of England. Because yeah, she's initially there to be the wife of Prince Arthur, but Prince Arthur, he gets sick, he dies. Where does that leave Catherine? She's a widow now. And yeah, she doesn't want to go back to Spain. She wants to be Queen of England. She will do anything to be Queen of England. So yeah, there's a lot of maneuvering there with Catherine that I just don't remember from the book, to be quite honest. So I really enjoyed that. So yeah, just some little things here I want to pick up on. For the most part, I did like the casting. The casting was a little interesting in some places, but for the most part, I did like the casting. I did like the acting. Some of the acting was a little strained for me. I feel like some of the acting could have been a little better. But yeah, I mean, the directing was great. The writing was great. I mean, I liked all of that sort of things. And yeah, the show is perhaps not the most accurate. You know, this is historical fiction after all. This is a historical fiction period drama. And yeah, they make clear to state that at the end of every episode that even though the show is based off of real people and based off of real events, there have definitely been liberties taken. So yeah, if you're watching this show for accuracy, you're going to be disappointed, because this show is not about the accuracy. This show is, to me, when historical shows like this, to me, they're more intended to just be entertaining. You know, they're meant to be entertaining, to tell a good story, and to get you interested, you know, to get you interested so that way you'll go and do the research and find out what is historic fact, what is historic fiction, you know. So yeah, this is definitely not the most accurate of projects. There's definitely a lot of liberties taken. Things are kind of rearranged a little bit. Yeah, definitely the costume. Don't get me started on the costuming. The costuming was a little outlandish to me on occasion, because I was like, I don't think they would have dressed that way in the 1500s. But still, for me, I mean, I still enjoyed the show. It was ultimately still very fun and enjoyable. It did what it did. And I do think one negative, maybe too many side plots, because, well, like I said, the show has this initial slow start, and I almost feel like there's just too many plots going on, which might be a result of too many side characters. And yeah, I really kind of wanted to just strictly be very much focused on Catherine and Henry, you know, and yes, some of the other people like Margaret, Beaufort, and Henry the Second and whatnot. But yeah, there was some other characters that's like, I don't know if we necessarily needed all that. So yeah, let's get into some of the actors in this that I want to highlight, and who I enjoyed and maybe who I didn't enjoy. We'll get to some of those. But yeah, Charlotte Hope, who played Catherine of Aragon. Charlotte Hope, who you might recognize from Game of Thrones. She played the evil, wicked Miranda, who was like girlfriend to Ramsay Bolton. Yeah, guys, I hated her on Game of Thrones. So I was a little worried I was going to go into this and hate her, because she left a bad taste in my mouth from Game of Thrones. But yeah, I actually ended up kind of liking her quite a bit in the role of Catherine of Aragon. She does try to attempt to put on like a Spanish accent, which it sometimes it worked, but for the most part it really didn't. It kind of fell flat for me. It didn't seem genuine, because I think there were some other actors in here that I think were more of Spanish descent who had legit Spanish accents, and like you could kind of tell the difference who had a real accent and who didn't. And yeah, Charlotte Hope, because I definitely know she's British, yeah, it did seem like she was kind of struggling sometimes to get that Spanish accent to perfection. But other than that, I mean, she looked like Catherine of Aragon, I think, from, you know, some of those portraits you see of her as a young woman, because I think she does have that red hair and whatnot. But yeah, I love Charlotte Hope. I think she did great with what she was given. And yeah, like I mentioned, I especially liked how Catherine was much more kind of plotting and maneuvering, you know, in the courts to make sure she becomes Queen of England. It doesn't matter what else is going on. She wants to be Queen of England. And yeah, that can kind of make her a bit unrelatable sometimes, because she'll kind of do some things and it's like, well, that was a little mean. And that was, you know, I wouldn't do such a thing like that. So yeah, she kind of stoops to some low places to make sure she is Queen of England. And it makes her sometimes kind of a little petty, and you can't relate to her. And yeah, she's just all over the place. Catherine's all over the place in this show, but I still enjoyed her. It made her a much stronger female heroine, I suppose, because a lot of times in Tudor historical dramas or fiction and whatnot, Catherine's often depicted as being the shy, timid wife of Henry VIII, and she's just brushed aside casually, you know, no ifs, ands, or buts about it. And yet in this, Catherine is a fighter, you know, Catherine is a fighter. She will go down swinging, and I really liked Charlotte Hope's performance in regards to that. Next up, I am not sure how to pronounce this. Is it Rory O'Connor? I'm not sure. Rory O'Connor. He plays Henry right before he is Henry VIII. Or Harry. I think they tend to call him Harry in this. I really liked Rory O'Connor's performance. He definitely embodied a young version of Henry VIII, because when you read a lot of these historical biographies about Henry VIII, you hear about him being very good looking and tall, before he becomes the fat, grumpy old man that he's notorious for being. So I liked seeing this version of Henry before he becomes that other version of himself. But what was great about his performance is that you start to see some of the future Henry VIII coming out in him on occasion. Some of those moments where he's quick to temper or anger or jealousy or whatever, you see some of those moments come out, and it was kind of great. So I'm curious where they're going to go with season 2, because yeah, he's got to divorce Catherine. Hey guys, I hate to break it to you if you're not familiar with the history. He's got to break up with poor Catherine. And I really liked the chemistry between Catherine and Henry. I think they definitely had some really good chemistry. Because, yeah, in the back of your head, you're thinking, oh, please don't divorce her later. Don't go after Anne Boleyn. But you know it's coming. You know it's coming. But I think for the most part, they had really good chemistry. I bought it. And yeah, there was a little bit of me like, please don't divorce her. Don't break her heart. And while I'm on the subject of Catherine and Henry, because I kind of want to bring up Prince Arthur, in this whole thing. I didn't even write down the actor who plays Prince Arthur. He was only in a couple episodes anyway, and then he died. He got like the sweating sickness or something. I really love that dynamic with Arthur, because the show starts and Catherine thinks that Arthur is the one writing her the love letters, but it's actually Henry who's writing the love letters. But Catherine does kind of form a very brief attachment with Arthur before he dies. And I know with Philippa Gregory's original book, I know there's a lot of controversy because historically, Catherine of Aragon, when Henry is divorcing her, Catherine claims that she did not consummate her marriage with Arthur. So that's kind of the very controversial thing that Philippa Gregory does in the book, is that Catherine and Arthur do consummate their marriage. So it makes Catherine a liar at the divorce proceedings, if you will. And that is, it's very controversial to people who like Tudor history and whatnot, because it's definitely a historic liberty and whatnot. And the thing is, I like that historic liberty because, we don't know for sure, we don't know for sure if Catherine of Aragon, if she did or did not consummate her marriage with Arthur. There's no way of knowing. And I kind of like the idea that maybe her and Arthur did, but yeah, she is so determined to be Queen of England that she lies, she lies. And to me, it makes her a much stronger character, a much stronger protagonist, rather than her being like a weak, feeble woman. It makes her stronger that she has a mind of her own, that she has a mind that is very intelligent and quick thinking enough to plot this. To plot something so extravagant like this to ensure that she eventually becomes Queen of England, So yeah, that controversy that Philippa Gregory kind of brings into light, that doesn't bother me. It seriously does not bother me. I like the idea that Catherine and Arthur might have consummated their marriage. Because it doesn't make her like a horrible person to me. It doesn't make her a horrible person, and it like totally derails her hearing, later in life when she's sitting there saying, oh, I'm a good Christian woman or Catholic woman. I did not consummate the marriage. You can't divorce me, Henry. It doesn't destroy that, or it just makes her a much stronger protagonist, that she's maneuvering, she's politically maneuvering and quick thinking to come up with this plot to guarantee being Queen of England, you guys. Okay, next up, Laura Carmichael. I freaking loved Laura Carmichael in this, you guys. She plays Maggie Pole. The character of Maggie Pole was previously in The White Princess, but played by a different actress, because yeah, in The White Princess she was a bit younger, and in this she's older. But yeah, Laura Carmichael, I loved her in this role. Just brilliant, you guys. I've only seen Laura Carmichael in Downton Abbey, so it was really nice to see her in something very different. The character of Maggie Pole, her father is George. Her father was George Plantagenet, who was like was he the second brother? Or yeah, he was the second brother of King Edward the Fourth, you guys. Yeah, George Duke of Clarence was like he was the middle child essentially of or he was the middle brother of King Edward the Fourth, because yeah, there's Edward the Fourth, and then George Duke of Clarence, and then Richard, who eventually becomes Richard the Third. And yeah, if you watched the White Queen miniseries, George. He's executed for treason, and he's drowned in the barrel of wine. So yeah, that's who Maggie Pole's father is George Duke of Clarence, who was executed for treason. And then yeah, if you watch The White Princess, Maggie Pole's little brother was executed in The White Princess as well. So yeah, Maggie Pole is kind of one of the last Plantagenets. There's not really too many of them left. And there's kind of this inkling of we need to get a Plantagenet back on the throne, we gotta usurp the Tudors and whatnot. And yeah, she has a cousin that's a Plantagenet who's kind of in exile that she's trying to help navigate back onto the throne and whatnot, because yeah, she's had enough of the Tudors and their mental and physical abuse. And yeah, Maggie Pole is just such a relatable character. You sympathize with her. I mean, even though you love characters like Catherine and whatnot, it's like Maggie Pole, she's a poor innocent bystander. You know, her whole family was kind of usurped and overthrown, just all sorts of drama going on there. She's had such a tragic life. Like I said, her father was executed by being drowned in a barrel of wine and whatnot. So yeah, I mean, yeah, her brother was horribly executed. So yeah, Maggie Pole, just a terrible, terrible life, and just kind of pushed and shoved around all over the place. And yeah, I'm very curious where they're going to take her in season 2, because I know Maggie Pole, during Henry VIII's reign, she is executed by him. She's beheaded at some point by him. So I'm not sure when they're going to do that. Because yeah, that would definitely be historic liberty if they push it in season 2 of this show, because she's executed as like a very old woman. And in this, she's like a woman in her 30s. So yeah, that would definitely be pushing up the timeline if she's executed way earlier. So I'm curious if they're going to push up her execution sooner rather than later on the show. And then next up, we have Stephanie Levy John, who played Lena. I really liked Lena. I wasn't sure how I felt at first about Lena. Lena is the top lady-in-waiting to Catherine of Aragon. Lena also comes from, she's black, and she kind of comes from a bit of a Muslim background, sort of, but she's kind of pushed that aside, and she is straight out like Catholic now. And yeah, there's not too many people of color in this show. There's just a couple, and yeah, you just don't see very many people of color anyway in historical period dramas. So I really liked Lena's character. She's very loyal to Catherine of Aragon. She's willing to do everything for Catherine, even if that means sacrificing her own happiness and well-being on occasion. And yeah, let's kind of talk about her love interest. Let's move on to Aaron Cobham, who plays Oviedo. Am I pronouncing it? I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing it correctly, because Lena had such a very strong Spanish accent. And yeah, whenever she would say Oviedo, I think it was like, Oviedo. I like how she said his name. It's kind of cute. So yeah, Aaron Cobham, who played Oviedo, he's a Muslim. He's in love with Lena. Like I said, he's a person of color as well, which is, there's not too many in this show. And I love their relationship, their love story, their drama, and their angst. The two of them just wanted to be together. But yeah, he's a Muslim, she's a devout Catholic. Can they make it work? And it's also the thing too that Lena, she is a lady's maid to Catherine, and she's expected to marry into the Tudors. You know, she's expected to marry whoever the Tudors want her to marry. And yeah, here's Oviedo, who is a guard, essentially. He's a guard for the Tudors, and yeah, she can't marry him. But they make things work. They make things work, you guys. I loved it. And oh my god, that finale got super dramatic and intense with the two of them. I was like, oh my god. And yeah, I don't think, if I'm not mistaken, I don't think Lena or Oviedo, I don't think the two of them are in The Constant Princess at all by Philip Gregory. I think these are two just original characters to the show. Next up, Elliot Cohen, who plays King Henry VII. We did previously see Henry VII in The White Princess. Yeah, different actor this time around. He's not in the show too terribly much, but every time he is on, it's always a very important, pivotal scene and moment that he's in. I loved Elliot Cohen. Henry VII, like I was mentioning, Henry VII is just going through a lot, just mentally, physically, you know, like, he has to deal with the possibility of uprisings and being usurped from the throne. He's in constant fear and paranoia. And then add on top of that, we have Alexandra Moen, who plays Queen Elizabeth. And yeah, we saw Elizabeth in The White Queen and The White Princess, and now here she is, kind of like middle age in this show. I love the continuation of Henry and Elizabeth in this show, and it just reaches a dramatic climax when Elizabeth, she's in childbirth, but the baby dies, she dies as well, which is so sad, especially if you've been watching all these shows and you've seen Elizabeth as like a teenager and then as a young woman and now in this show. So it's so tragic if you've been watching her whole story and here she just dies, and it's so horrible. And I love that relationship with Henry and Elizabeth. It's such, because yeah, their relationship, it was forced. They were forced to marry each other. You know, combine the Tudors and the Plantagenets into one. But yeah, they eventually developed like a genuine love story and romance with each other that I really liked. Elizabeth, she dies. You know what? Does she die in the episode right after Prince Arthur? I swear, I think she dies in the episode right after Prince Arthur. And yeah, her death, that really pits Henry down to this downward spiral and whatnot, and he's so consumed with anger and bitterness, and just he's lost the love of his life and whatnot. And yeah, this brings up another whole plot that he's like, oh, I'll marry my son's widowed wife. I'll marry Catherine. So that provides some interesting little things in Catherine's narrative. You know, she wants to be Queen of England, but she doesn't want to marry Henry VII. She wants to marry the future Henry VIII. So there's a lot of great stuff going on there with Catherine and Henry. And oh my goodness, Henry's death in the finale, you guys. Oh my god, that was brutal. He's just, I'm not sure what he died of. Does anybody know for sure how Henry VII died? Because the show portrays it that he's in the tub and he might have tuberculosis, maybe? I'm not quite sure. And yeah, he's there in the tub, he all of a sudden just coughs up blood goes everywhere, and he just dies. Yeah, you guys, he just straight up dies right there in the tub, and it was kind of horrible. And yes, some other people here. We have Georgie Henley. You know what? Hold on. Before I speak about Georgie Henley, I just forgot somebody up here. I just looked at my notes and I totally forgot somebody way up here. Harriet Walter. Harriet Walter, who played Margaret Beaufort. I mentioned earlier about Margaret Beaufort. We've seen Margaret Beaufort in The White Queen and The White Princess. She's a very pivotal character in those, and yeah, her story continues in this. She's very pivotal, and yeah, she does die by the end, didn't she? She did die by the end. I feel like Margaret Beaufort's story, if you're just watching The Spanish Princess, I feel like a lot of stuff with her is very confusing to the viewer. I feel like you really need to watch The White Queen and The White Princess in order to understand and comprehend her story and understand her motivations and why she does the things that she does and says and whatnot. Because I feel like Margaret Beaufort can be a very confusing and conflicting character if you're not already familiar with her, because yeah, her character, yeah, when you're introduced to her in The White Queen, you know, she is doing everything in her power to put her son Henry Tudor on the throne of England. And then yeah, the White Princess, her son is the King of England, and she is doing everything to make sure he remains the king. And yeah, she continues that here in this show as well. And yeah, just all these little things getting in the way of her plans. You know, she can't bear to think that she will be brushed aside at some point, and that all of her best laid plans might be pushed to the side, you know. So yeah, Harriet Walter, just an incredible performance from her. I didn't think anybody could top Michelle Fairley from The White Princess, but yeah, Harriet Walter did amazing, you guys. Okay, so moving on for her, I was about to talk about Georgie Henley. Georgie Henley, who a lot of us might remember as Lucy Pevensey from The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, you know, the Chronicles of Narnia and whatnot. I was so thrilled and excited when I found out Georgie Henley was going to be on this show, you guys, because I've seriously not seen her in anything since since the Chronicle of Narnia movies. She plays Princess Meg, who is the sister of Prince Arthur and Prince Henry and whatnot. She doesn't last too long on the show. She's kind of there until about the halfway point, and she gets married off to like the King of Scotland, right? I want to say. So her story kind of abruptly ends, but I am curious if they're going to bring her back into the fold in maybe season 2, possibly. I don't know. I love Georgie Henley in this. It was nice to see her in a different type of role like this. It was nice to see her grown up and mature. Thank God she kept her clothes on, because I was like, I don't want to see her naked. Because yeah, like I said, the last thing I saw her in, she was a little girl. I was like, I don't want to see her naked. So thank God she kept her clothes on. And yeah, Georgie Henley's also going to be in the Game of Thrones spin-off show, which I'm so excited about, you guys. I'm so excited. So yeah, it's like her career is just really picking up recently. Yeah, Princess Meg was just really fun. Yeah, she don't want to be married off either. She's another young lady in this show. She's like, I don't want to be married off. You're selling me off to some old man. And then let's talk about Nadia Parks, who plays Rosa. And then kind of tie in Ollie Ricks, who plays Lord Stafford. Let's talk about Rosa. The character of Rosa is another lady-in-waiting to Catherine. I hated this character, you guys. When I was mentioning earlier about too many side plots and too many characters, I really feel like they could have just done away with the Rosa character. And yeah, even Lord Stafford, even though Lord Stafford was very good looking and nice to look at, the thing is, Rosa and Stafford, I feel like they could have just been written out of this show, and you wouldn't have been able to notice. Rosa and Lord Stafford really didn't provide anything to the narrative, in my opinion. They were kind of just a distraction, just to kind of flesh out the episodes to make them longer. I mean, their romance was okay. The thing is, he was a married man. I don't know how I'm supposed to support that, but yeah, the romance was it was okay, but it was a little irritating at the same time. And yeah, Rosa as a character was just very irritating. You guys, I found her incredibly irritating and annoying. I kept waiting for her to die. Is that terrible of me to say? I just kept wanting her to die so bad. And then, like I said, Lord Stafford, he was a good-looking man, but yeah, yeah, his subplot I just didn't care for either. So, yeah, I mean, that's kind of really the one negative thing. That's why I have them here at the very bottom of this review. If I had to cut out some stuff, it would have definitely been Rosa and Lord Stafford. That could have been done away with, and I would not have noticed or cared. So that does kind of lead me into, you know, because we are getting a season 2 of The Spanish Princess. Yeah, what do they plan on doing after that? Because I'm wondering if they will do the other Boleyn girl. That would be very exciting. Like, if they combined the other Boleyn girl and the Boleyn inheritance, that would make for a great duo of books, I think. Because, yeah, not only are they doing the Constant Princess with this, I kind of forgot to mention that, they're doing the Constant Princess plus the King's Curse, because that's where a lot of Maggie Pole's stuff is. So, yeah, there's kind of that combination of books there. But I am curious if Starz is going to keep this up. I hope they do, because these are like my guilty pleasure. You know, I love these historical period dramas based off of Philippa Gregory's books. I just enjoy them immensely. So you guys, that is it for my review of Season 1 of The Spanish Princess. Like I said, overall, I enjoyed it for what it was. It was fun. I liked the history and the politics, and seeing a young Catherine of Aragon, and, you know, kind of exploring some of the early Tudor stuff, you know, because, you know, like the one show, The Tudors with Jonathan Rhys-Meyers, you start off and Henry's already married to Catherine and he's about to divorce her anyway, and Anne Boleyn is introduced very rapidly. So I liked seeing kind of pre-that, you know, pre-Jonathan Rhys-Meyers, The Tudors. It was nice to see that history and kind of the development of certain people there. But you guys, in the comments below, have you guys seen The Spanish Princess? Did you love it? Did you hate it? If you hated it, that's okay. You don't have to love it or enjoy it as much as I did. But yeah, I'm very curious people's opinions about the show, whether you loved it or hated it, things you liked, things you didn't like. Just let me know your thoughts down below. So that's it for this video. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And if you like this video, you may like these other videos. Bye, guys.